My name is Kevin Weaver. I'm the president and CEO of Spinar America, as Raj has pointed out. My background is a BA in political science. I did some graduate work at New York University and the University of Pennsylvania here in the US, the Wharton School in particular. I ran the Western Hemisphere for Time magazine and was publisher of the Bible of the entertainment business, Variety, and then moved to new technology about 15 years ago and have subsequently worked for two of the top 5 venture capitalists in the world, namely Sequoia Capital and NEA. So that's just sort of the start, as it were. I joined Spinar in 2016 after being president of an AR engine company based in the UK, where at the time I met my partner, Jorge De La Rosa, and who is indeed the founder of Spinar. And Spinar at the time was an AR software development company. We have subsequently become a spatial computing company. And spatial computing, just for anybody who doesn't quite understand that framework, it's a roll-up nomenclature for numerous platforms, notably AR, VR, XR, MR, and in fact, the new shiny object over the last year and a half of AI. Our leading product in the market today is Vision AI, which is an artificial intelligence product that converts the 1 billion surveillance cameras in the world, of which, as an aside, only 1% are monitored effectively, into smart cameras that gather critical data that is needed for change and profitability of companies worldwide. So that's sort of an opening thought, Raj, and maybe I'll just sort of turn to you. I hope that addresses the Spinar story. Great question, and thank you. So just for some clarity and a little backup, Vision AI is a B2B software product that integrates cutting-edge computer vision and AI capabilities into IP cameras and CCTV systems to help companies analyze. And I think the core deliverable, in the end, our software delivers data, right? And I think that's the most important aspect of what the value we bring. But it helps companies measure fraudulent activity, unsafe activity, unwanted behaviors, as well as additional client-directed metrics. So we have a bespoke capability because with AI, in our experience, it's such a new technology as an aspect of spatial computing. Companies really don't know how to use AI yet. So we have basically a consultancy role with clients to determine what exactly they're looking for. And the more detail that we can extract from our discussions that precede a campaign or partnership over an extended period of time, the better, only because it really aids in the value that we bring to clients, and it morphs in its own way over time. After a company uses Vision AI, they're in a better position to say, we get it. We understand how this software can help our capability, bring us data that we were unaware of before, and ultimately convert it into to value for ourselves. A couple of our clients, Raj, and I think this might be helpful in a way, is a few just to mention, AB InBev, the global liquor company, Walmart, of course, everybody knows Walmart, Grupo Morsa, and RCO, which is the second largest highway company in Mexico. In Walmart, for example, they lose hundreds of millions of dollars a year to fraudulent activity on the loading platform itself. Never mind in store, never mind sort of other aspects of the business. So our partnership with them allows us to be able to analyze the loading docks and the curtains that sort of raise and open accordingly. And depending upon the very specific metrics that they're looking for, if it's open more than 1 foot, for example, that could mean something that could lend itself to fraudulent activity. So to the extent that Vision AI can examine and monitor 24/7 those curtains on the loading platform, it converts itself directly to the bottom line of savings that the company has that they have not lost to fraudulent activity. In the case of RCO, the highway company, in Mexico, the toll booth operators sort of measure car by car. It's still sort of a very human process, but our working relationship with them is such that we can actually measure the number of wheels on any given truck to be able to determine the fees that are appropriate associated with the cars, and obviously register that data back to the company so that they can then in turn charge accordingly and have the revenues that they need that they may have lost with human engagement with the company. It's really interesting, and if I may, I'll dip into my history a little bit with Time Magazine. For example, presidential elections made for significant years. Every single presidential election going back over 100 years now, all things considered. So your point is well made. Presidential elections in the United States tend to sort of shift and provide added light to a lot of activity. The truth of the matter is, as it relates to Vision AI, our core product and offering today, I think it may be, to be perfectly honest, a distraction. In other words, there's a lot of noise created by presidential elections, and to cut through the morass of all the activity, I'm not being partisan in any way at this point, living in the United States, but whereas companies still need to stick to their knitting, they still need P&L statements, they still need to address stockholders and investors throughout. So our core competency and deliverability to partnerships is such that it's really bottom line directed. In that sense, we sort of can see the presidential election running parallel to ongoing business activity. But our job ultimately is to help companies refocus on the core elements of their business model, and as best we can, and provide value therein, even though it is a presidential year, if that makes sense. So ultimately, I'll translate that slightly in saying that a piece of that at least might be our go-to-market strategy, which is we simplify it in our own way, which is ultimately sell to resellers. And ultimately, our ICP, ideal customer profile, is smaller businesses. That is to say that either locations or plants or manufacturing outlets that have 1 to, let's say, 5, where there's a key decision maker. In many cases, or most cases, the owner of the company will be able to see the opportunity that we present them. That is to say that we can bring them data that actually can change, modify, and improve their business practice, and say, this is the kind of thing we need in the company, and work with us to establish a working relationship and an ongoing partnership that, as I mentioned at the beginning, will continue to morph over time and bring greater value. That strategy, and I'll give you an illustration. There's a company that you may know in Southeast Asia, or actually global, but it's called Tech Mahindra. Part of our ongoing discussion with them is they have a airport partner that has a number of airports where they're trying to use our capability to monitor foot traffic, to be able to see where people are throughout the airport at any given time. Surprisingly, not for safety, security, or that kind of activity, but really to see where people are, where there is retail opportunity that they're not taking advantage of. In other words, where there are clusters of people where they could put a kiosk and be able to offer a product of some consequence that they could establish a partnership with. So I think that kind of sell to reseller, in this case, we would be selling to Tech Mahindra, who would ultimately bring it to their partner, their existing partner. And to the extent that we can do that, or do that globally, it will help our business expand and provide a leadership role for Vision AI that will be of consequence and help us aggressive revenue goals and objectives. In fact, I'm emotionally, personally running the company, but just generally in my other life, I'm way downstream about AI. I know there are a lot of concerns about ethics and regulation and sort of some of the key elements about artificial intelligence as we move forward. But I truly believe there is an enhancement that it will bring to humanity that will be of great consequence. Coincidentally, 6 years ago, I gave a TED talk about this very subject matter, about what happens when human beings become sort of subjugated to AI. So we become the lesser species on the planet. At the time, to some extent, it still holds true, and I hope Raj had addressed as part of your question, is I said that we are obligated to establish a symbiotic relationship with AI, because as I point out in my talk, actually, there's going to be a point in time we're going to have to ask AI how smart it is, because we won't know ourselves, right? In fact, Bill Gates himself said that now 7 or so years ago. So I do think that will alter almost every aspect of how we live our lives and run our businesses, for certain. My core partner, and we take meetings every day, is his name is Jorge De La Rosa, and a genius by all measure, or standard, if I may. And our morning meetings really center around what our core objectives are for the day, but also mindful of strategic objectives. So we do the tactical as well as strategic. And as much as anything, we look into our existing partnerships, our software development team, of which we have about 20 people that are developers, some of the smartest, we think, in the world, most capable, as it were, and all of which are sort of very front-end loaded in terms of the newest technologies and platforms that they need to work with in order to write the smartest code available. And ultimately, we focus a lot on customers, in the sense that we feel and work towards customer-centric activity throughout every day, every business day, and over the course of the year, which we think lends itself to the success of the company. But Jorge is, I have tremendous respect for him as a person and as a professional, and we would not be where we are without his great skill. I think, Raj, and you be the judge and edit accordingly, but it's really our association with Marquee as much as anything, which I came to this call wanting to thank you directly and Ashwat, and ultimately really sort of the longevity of our partnership has been effective. And it started with Shushmita, which my first engagement with her, which she reached out to us, which I respect to begin with. It was a very good call, and ultimately it went to Payal Shadik for our day-to-day operations. And I can't think of a single engagement, of which there were hundreds, in mail and phone calls and every hour of the day and night from both sides, that we were dissatisfied, in the sense that prompt response, full engagement, and tireless effort from Marquee Equity. And I say that, from my heart, as it were. I will add this small caveat at the end. We are still looking for funding, and to the extent that any of your listeners want to engage with us to that end, we'd be thrilled and delighted. But our lack of funding for the moment has nothing to do with Marquee, in the sense that your effort, focus, capability, and professionalism has been top-notch throughout our existing relationship. So I want to thank you for that. I greatly appreciate it, and we'll continue to move forward in the most constructive and positive way, and thank you for your efforts.